a Milwaukee apartment building on a summer morning in 1991. Neighbors complained of a foul smell. Police knocked on an apartment door and found a scene that would shock the nation. What followed was not just the arrest of a single man. It was the discovery of years of hidden horror that forced a country to confront failures of the system and the human capacity for secrecy. Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested that day. He would eventually confess to murders and acts that revealed a pattern of manipulation, addiction, and isolation. But telling this story demands care. It is a story of victims, missed chances, and a systemic blind spot that allowed a predator to persist. Born in 1960, Jeffrey Dahmer grew up in Ohio and later Wisconsin. Friends and neighbors described him as withdrawn, a loner who retreated into fantasy. He exhibited troubling behaviors in adolescence and struggled with alcohol and social isolation. As he got older, his impulses grew more dangerous. He moved to Milwaukee as a young adult, holding a series of jobs and living alone. Neighbors noted odd visitors and disturbing odors. Yet for years, his crimes were invisible in plain sight. Dahmer targeted vulnerable men, often those he met in bars or on the street. He sought control, companionship, and secrecy. Over a decade, he lured victims to his apartment and murdered them. He later confessed to acts that included dismemberment and attempts to prevent detection. The details of these acts are deeply disturbing. We will avoid graphic description and focus on the impact. Multiple lives lost, families left without answers, and a community shocked. One of the most troubling aspects of the Dahmer case was how many chances there were to stop him. In 1991, a 14-year-old named Konorak Synthesomphone escaped Dahmer and was briefly found by police on the street, confused and injured. Neighbors, especially a 19-year-old woman, alerted officers that the teen had been assaulted. Dahmer convinced police the teen was his adult. Lover and officers returned Konorak to Dahmer, a decision that cost a life. The public outcry that followed was intense. Officers were criticized for racial bias, negligence, and failure to heed concern from neighbors. Other interactions, strange calls, complaints, and reports did not lead to arrests. Some critics point to institutional blind spots. Victims who were poor, LGBTQ, or racial minorities often received less urgency from authorities. Dahmer's arrest came after a would-be victim escaped and led police to Dahmer's apartment. Inside, the evidence was incontrovertible. He confessed to multiple murders, providing a chilling chronicle of years of killing. The confessions were methodical. He spoke of loneliness, compulsion, and a desire for control. Psychiatrists later diagnosed him with personality disorders, but the legal system held him accountable. In 1992, Dahmer was tried and convicted of multiple counts of murder. His defense argued for insanity, that he could not control his impulses. The jury rejected that, finding him legally sane and guilty. He was sentenced to multiple consecutive life terms. Public reaction was a mix of relief and horror. Families got a measure of accountability, but the systemic questions lingered. How had this continued for so long? Why did so many warnings go unacted upon? Dahmer's story forced institutions to reckon with bias and neglect. It sparked inquiries into police procedures, outreach to marginalized communities, and how societal prejudices can enable predators. Families of victims campaigned for better protection for vulnerable people and for recognition of how neglect can become lethal. In 1994, Dahmer was killed in prison by another inmate, a violent end that closed one chapter but left many questions unanswered. The victims' families continued to grieve, to advocate, and to demand that their loved ones not be reduced to sensational headlines. The Dahmer case is a painful reminder that evil often hides behind ordinary doors. It is also a warning of the cost of societal indifference. When institutions fail to listen, vulnerable people pay the price. Our responsibility is to remember the victims, learn from the failings, and ensure systems protect those most at risk.